Welcome everybody, Steve, with another edition of Author Spotlight, this time with Elza Spaedy of the book Freedom Through Christ. Elza, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Now, full disclosure, everybody, we may have another guest on this one. We'll find out soon. I don't know yet, but TBA, to be announced.
Yeah.
Might be the player to be named later. So,
Yes.
Elza, can you tell us about the book? Why did you come up with this? What made you inspire you to write this book?
Um, well, 2 years ago is when I first gave my testimony at St. Mark. It was Sunday, Pentecost 2018. And the reaction I had from giving my testimony was amazing. I just didn't expect it. So many people coming up to me afterwards and telling me that my story was their story, or it was their daughter's story, or their mom's story, or their brother. It just felt like it was coming from everywhere. And I just felt, wow, I might have to write a book about this to help everybody understand that they're not alone. So definitely when I went up to give my testimony, I had no idea I was going to be writing a book. I really didn't. I didn't even think I was going to make it through that night. It was just so scary to be speaking about this, in front of my own congregation. But God is good, and He got me through it. And so afterwards is when it hit me. I'm going to need to write a book about this. That's where it came from. I wanted to help other people, understand that they're not alone, because I felt I was alone all my life. And once you know that other people have suffered like you have, or have gone through something similar, it's very comforting. All of a sudden you're not alone. So that's the reason for the book.
Yeah, you kind of remind me of Layla Miller there for a second, when she wasn't up for writing a book and I asked people to send in their divorce stories or things like that, and she got flooded with all these stories, and then a book came out of it.
Yeah.
Have you had anybody? What kind of response have you had from the book yet?
I've had lots of good response. Just people reaching out to me and telling me their personal story, or their sister had gone through something very similar around the same age I was, and that they're hoping that this is going to help their sister, and just telling me how much my book is giving them hope. And that's amazing to hear that, because it wasn't easy to write this book. It was only by the grace of God that I was able to do it. And I'm glad I did it. Now that it's over, I'm so glad I did it, because now I can see already the fruits of it. I can see that people who are hurting from this, they're going to find comfort in reading my story. And that's what it's about. It's about connecting with other people, letting them know there's hope. You don't have to suffer alone. Tell someone about what you went through. Because that was another thing that I found out when I gave my testimonies, that a lot of people haven't told anybody. I met someone that told me that they haven't even told their spouse that something terrible happened to them when they were 9 years old. And to me, that is an unbearable cross to bear alone. And I don't think God meant for that. He didn't send Jesus to die on the cross for us to suffer alone. Does that make sense? He wants us to suffer together, because that way we can help each other carry our crosses. So knowing that a lot of people haven't even told anybody about it and are suffering alone, that's another reason why for the book. And I also found out, this is probably one of the biggest reasons why I wrote the book. I found out that someone who I love very much also went through something very similar. So when I found that out, it just really hit me hard. And to see that person whom I love so much, see the pain. I think it's 1 Corinthians 12 that says that when one person from the body of Christ suffers, we all suffer together. And I just remember thinking, when I found out, wow, my heart was broken. My heart was more broken for this person than it was broken for myself. So this is what this book is about. This book is for victims that are still suffering, to give them hope, to give them an understanding that it doesn't matter where you've been, what has happened to you, what kind of stuff you've gone through. There's hope. Jesus Christ is our hope.
Yeah, you can never go hopeless. How's the way to say it is, even though as terrible as something is, there's always good that can come out of it. Is you look at the cross, what's the worst thing you could do is theocide, and we killed our Lord, and look at the good that came out of that.
Exactly. Exactly. Of course, it takes, for me, it took 40 years to understand all of that, but I wouldn't change anything about my life, about my past, about my suffering. Because if I had to go through all of that to get to be where I am now, to feel closer to God, to trust in Him, to know that He is the one that truly healed me. It wasn't any medication. It wasn't anything I did. Mm-hmm. It's what He did for me, and to me, that's all worth it. I think the biggest problem with suffering is that today we live in a world that believes that we shouldn't suffer, and right. That's wrong. That's wrong. So if we fall into that trap and that lie, then we can't come to grips with our sufferings.
It's the take a pill society. You got a headache, take a pill. You bump your knee, take a pill. You divorce if your marriage is having a little bit of rocks, there's a no fault divorce guy. If you want to go out and have a quick drink, you can have 12 of them and then do whatever you want, then kill the kid. There's a lot of quick fixes.
Yes.
That end up making the cross way heavier.
Way heavier. It's so true. We see it. It's very easy to see it today, I think. So my book is really a book that I'm hoping. Yes, there's some sad parts of it, but it's not a sad book. Mm-hmm. It's a book about hope. It's a book about the power of forgiveness. It's the book of the power of redemption. Accepting whatever it is that came your way, your sufferings, but then letting God walk through those sufferings and glorify God within all of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think the book is that.
Kind of like a classical comedy where it starts as a tragic story and ends on a good light. Whereas exactly. A tragedy starts in a good light and ends in tragedy.
Yes. Yes. Because I felt when I looked for books on this subject when I was in my 20s, that's when the trauma all came back, because it comes back. It for everybody, it's going to come back at a different time, different places, different situations. For me, it was in my early 20s, and the first thing I did, because I've always loved to read, was to go look for books mm-hmm. on the subject. I wanted to hear someone else's story. I wanted to know how they made it. But the sad thing is that all the books that were out there then, so this was almost 30 years ago, I just turned 50, they were devastating, because most of these people didn't believe in God, didn't mention God. And if they did, they believed God was the one that let this happen. So they hated God for this, So I felt I was left feeling worse than I was before I read these stories, And I just remember thinking, and God was so good, I felt like God was telling me, don't read this stuff. Don't read this stuff. This is not helping you. I have better plans for you. I am going to heal you. It's going to take time, but I'm the one who's going to do it. And then you're going to have your own story to tell. And that's my walk. That's my book. That's my life story. It was written by God, Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I couldn't have done it. He did it. He put all the right people in my life at different times to help me get through the bumps, to find the right help, to move on from a victim to survivor, to teach me how to forgive. I had to have a lot of people be examples. I talk about in the book how at one point I couldn't get enough of reading about the Holocaust, Mm-hmm. And looking back, it was because I needed to go that route, because then he guided me towards the stories of survivors, and the ones that were really survivors, the ones that were able to move on and live life with purpose, were the ones that understood they needed to forgive. Mm-hmm. And little by little, I understood that. I'm like, there's something in here. If I want to have a good life, if I want to make something out of myself and not go crazy, I need to forgive. So there's that lesson in there, which is, I feel it's a lesson for all of us, to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Because without forgiving, you can't move on.
You look at the book Victories of the Martyrs by St. Alphonsus, and he's yay thick of all the Japanese martyrs and the early 3rd century martyrs, and you hear stories of forgiveness all the time. And there's one in the Glories of Mary that he talks about, I think it's about purgatory, where the guy that killed the lady's son runs into their house. He just got done killing her son, and she doesn't know it yet. And the cops are following her, and she finally asks, "What are they coming? What are you in for?" And he tells her, and she basically forgives him on the spot and tells him, "You got to own up to what you did." I helped him out, got him to the right people. Her son appeared to her when she got back home, and said, "For your mercy and forgiveness, what you just got done doing, you spared me years of purgatory time that I was about to take."
Wow,
So
that's beautiful.
just the being power of forgiveness, just like that. And you got a son daughter, I got a son daughter. You read that, but when rubber hits the road, we act that.
I know. That's why it's good to have examples of people that have done it. Mm-hmm. So in my book, also, there's another story about my own aunt. Okay, one of my mom's sister, and this was right when I was going through my hardest time. Again, my early 20s. I lived in Boston. My mom called and said, "I have bad news, terrible news. Your cousin and her husband and their 5-year-old, just terrible hit and run. They were walking home, all 3 gone." Mm-hmm. Just like, I was devastated. I'd grown up really close to this one particular aunt. So my cousin was like a sister to me, and my aunt was like a second mom. So she had 5 boys and 1 girl. So there was her only daughter, taken away in such a terrible, terrible way. So after I hung up with my mom, I called my aunt. And true to form, because she's always been an amazing woman of faith. And, after we cried and all of that, I asked her, "How do you feel about this guy that just did this?" Mm-hmm. He was on drugs, alcohol, everything, you can name it. And she, without hesitating, said, "I forgave him already." Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. It's one of those moments in your life where everything kind of stops. And I remember that. I remember exactly where I was, standing up, holding the phone, the room, everything. Because I was like, what? Is that even possible?
Like St. Maria Goretti, her mom. And Sarah Nerli comes up to her later and says, "I am sorry." And she looks at him, "What took you so long, my son?"
That's amazing, but that's so beautiful. That's the examples we need to have. Mm-hmm. That's why I love the saints. I love that we have the lives of the saints, because you learn so much from them. And I remember thinking, when my aunt said that, a light bulb just went on. I'm like, I want to be like her. And if she could forgive, I need to forgive. She forgave something terrible, like 100 times worse than what I went through. Mm-hmm. And so I think that more stories about forgiveness need to be out. More, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we have more examples. So when you and I are in a situation where we need to forgive, we can, in an instant, remember that case, remember that person, because we need to have examples. We can't do it on our own. It's not easy.
And obviously the famous story of Job, holy Job.
Exactly. Think about that.
Yeah, a lot of people may have read it, but never really read it.
Oh boy!
I just felt like I was in White Man Can't Jump. Are you hearing Jimmy or listening to Jimmy? I'm hearing Jimmy.
You're right. It's amazing. It's amazing. But how do you do that? There's no explanation. other than it's by the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
It's not within our own powers. We don't have the power. We don't possess that kind of power.
Mm-hmm.
We make the decision, we make the choice, and I think that's really what God is asking of us. Just choose good, choose to forgive. I will do the heavy work for you because I know you can't do it. God already knows we can't do it. He just wants us to speak it, to say it. I forgive you. Then he does the heavy work for us.
I got a series a priest friend of mine did on healing and wounds. It's helped out a ton of people, but it shows that, first, if you want to be healed, you must want to be healed. It's kind of like an exorcism. You can't just, they do it for me. You have to have the will to want to be that
Yes.
way. Father just can't go up to you and say, hey, get out. No, you got to want it. Same thing with healing. Same thing with forgiveness. You want to be able, you have to will that. You just can't just say it.
You want it. You have to want it so bad for your own good, the good of that other person too, but for your own good, because if you don't, and I talk about that in the book, it's like these chains that you're going to be carrying with you forever, and they're heavy. Who wants that? You want to free yourself from all of that stuff so you can be open to receive God's blessing. Because I feel, and I've known lots of people, they have a hard time to forgive. And you can see in their life choices what that looks like. And I did that in my earlier years. I was sabotaging my own happiness.
Eat you up.
Yeah. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Do it for yourself.
They say there was the worm that never finished. It just keeps eating away at you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's very destructive. Because it's like a poison you give the person. What is that saying? It's a poison you give the person, but you're the one that ends up being drinking it and forever feeling the effects of it. So yeah, forgiveness is huge. If anybody gets that out of my book, that they need to forgive, I think it's huge. I think I've accomplished something for the Lord, because we don't live in a world that advertises that. They're not taught forgive and forget.
No.
Forgive on.
No.
It's not. And I thought about that when I was writing this book. Look at what's on TV. It's all these reality shows with everybody backstabbing each other. Right? To get to the finish line, you have to backstab. You almost have to backstab someone, right? So this is the kind of stuff that's like breathing out there. And I know you probably have kids. I have kids. I tell my kids, don't even watch this stuff, because what are you learning from it? You're not learning to be a better version of yourself. You're not going to learn that from those shows, because that's not what they're teaching you.
No, yeah, no. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to find stuff like that. I mean, thankfully my wife's on board with things like that. We had the kid will watch Can the Hat on Amazon, and notice things. They're very polite to each other. The cat always asks him, your parents will not mind if you go ask. Basically, every time the kid go ask the parents, can we go?
Yes.
They're helping each other out. Sure, there's some rivalry in there, but it's a good rivalry. Because there's another one that shows everyone making ending on a tie. Yay! No, I told my kid already, I'm going to cut that show off just because it says a tie is good.
Oh, yep.
But anything else on the book you want people to know?
I think that really I want everybody to know that no matter what, and this is the message I felt God was telling me as I'm writing this. It's just it doesn't matter what you've gone through. He loves you. He loves each one of us with such a perfect, beautiful love. And he truly desires to be our healer and our comforter. The biggest problem is that we keep things from him. We don't give ourselves freely to him. And we definitely try to hide our pain. And I know it's not why would we hide our pain from the person, from the our creator, the one that can actually heal us? It's because we lack trust, right? Somehow we still don't feel like he's going to heal us. Or why me? He'll heal that person, but not me. I'm not worthy. Well, he doesn't heal you because you're worthy. He just heals us because he loves us. We have to understand that, and if my readers will just come to him with their brokenness. Don't wait until you because it's like that saying, and you hear that a lot today with young adults and maybe young married couples. I don't have enough money to have a baby yet. That is just wrong. You're never going to have enough money, right? So if you think about God and going to God, gee, are you going to wait until you're perfect, all the pieces are put together to go to God? How are you ever going to be together if you don't go to him? Right? Yeah. So the message, just go to him. Bring all your pains, those deep ones, especially the ones that you've been keeping to yourself, because that's where he wants to go. He doesn't want just the little everyday bumps and bruises. He wants the real pain, because he knows once he gets in there and he can heal you from those real pains, you can then help others too. Because I think we're all each other's keepers, right? We help each other. That's how God made us. We are fulfilled the most when we are helping someone else. I thought in my book how, when in my 20s, I started volunteering at a women's shelter in Boston, and how that was super healing for my own self, just because I was giving on myself. I wasn't like so much concentrated on my pain, and that's another thing that I think we forget to bring up. Don't close yourself in your pain, because that's what the devil wants.
It's actually one of the visions of, I think, Catherine of Siena with hell. The demons, there are people in hell are turned in on themselves.
Yes. And there's a great danger in doing that. We all do that once in a while if you're sorry for yourself, right? But you have to be careful not to stay there, because the longer you stay there, the longer the devil is going to manipulate you. And those lies will become stuff that you believe in. When he tells you, like someone like me from the very young age of 8, that there was something wrong with me, I believe that. Believe that, So now I feel like if I can help one person to not believe in those lies anymore, I think I've accomplished something,
Very good, yeah.
So that's my hope. My hope is that the readers will find, and it's going to be different for everybody who reads it. Of course, we're all different. Our pain is different. Our traumas are different. But one thing is for sure, we all need healing, and we're all broken in some way, right? And but to know that you are broken is the first step, and then to come out of yourself and look for help is the second. Just reach out to someone, and if you're dealing with this kind of stuff, any type of abuse, the shame is really strong, and it really can. It can completely stop you from living.
Yeah.
Yeah. You believe in it so much, and you never want to talk about it to anybody. So therefore, you are not finding any help. You're not feeling any love, and we need love. Love is everything we need. So when you tell someone and that person gives you love, and loves you right there with your wounds, in your wounds, and then they guide you in this direction, go talk to someone here, or maybe you can try this. It's amazing healing effect in that,
Yeah, very much so. Well, everybody, she's Elza Spaedy, the book Freedom Through Christ. We'll have the link underneath the video in the show notes section. Just click on it. Buy the book, or if someone needs maybe to read this, buy it for them for a gift. And Yes, obviously say Hail Mary for them afterwards, and beforehand, before too, throughout the day.
Yes, and thank you for having me. And yes, I pray that anyone that reads it will be blessed by it. I really do.
Awesome. Thank you, Elza, for doing it, putting it out there. At least I'm sure it's not easy. Not easy to write a book anyways, but not easy to write a book on this. So
Yes.
thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
You too. Thanks.